Welcome to Self-Care, a journey, not a destination. My name is Kirsten, and today we will explore self-care and why it's so important. Self-care is a must for us to function effectively from both a physiological and a psychological standpoint. Right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic, as if you need reminding. So who am I to teach you about self-care? As I mentioned earlier, my name is Kirsten Sheridan, and I'm a professional skin and body therapist. We often don't realize the importance of self-care until something happens where we feel our bodies have let us down. I have been teaching self-care for many years, but it wasn't until several years ago I really understood the importance of it until I faced my own health crisis. An old horse riding injury left me in intense pain and unable to bear weight on my right leg for several months. It wasn't until after my complex regional pain syndrome diagnosis that I really set up and took notice of the importance of taking care of myself. Prior to my diagnosis, I was constantly working, racing against the clock, getting little sleep, and felt like there was never enough time to get it all done. Then suddenly I was not physically able to do any of it. It wasn't a choice anymore. Let's explore what self-care really means. Self-care isn't something you do when you have a spare hour or on a rainy day. Self-care is truly a lifestyle. A true self-care plan is made up of many good habits that are repeated on a frequent and consistent basis. You've all heard about the analogy putting your oxygen mask on before you help anyone else. Carving time for self-care may initially feel like a luxury. The other excuse we tell ourselves is we don't have time, myself included. We also have the same 24 hours in a day. What if I told you it's actually possible to be productive and create time for self-care practices? A lot of self-care involves swapping out the not-so-good habits we already have for more positive and beneficial ones. Hopefully now you're thinking about all the habits you have, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll take a deeper look at what self-care means and why it is so important. But first, let's look at what self-care is not. Self-care is not selfish. Going back to the oxygen mask analogy, you can't help others if you can't help yourself. I don't think anyone would dispute the fact that if you're healthy, happy, and living your best life, that you aren't a more joyful person to be around. You have more energy and are more productive. Self-care is not self-indulgent behavior. Self-indulgent behavior makes you feel better about yourself in the short term, satisfying a craving or a desire, much like a sugar high. You often feel deflated afterwards and then crave the rush again. Think about retail therapy. It's fun and it feels good in the moment, often followed by regret for wasting time and money you don't think you have. What is pampering? Don't confuse pampering with self-care. Pampering suggests you are taking time to spend doing something for yourself that's enjoyable and you would not usually do or do infrequently. I'll give you an example. As you know, I'm a skincare therapist. In our clinics, we see many types of clients, but there are two distinctions. We have on the one side the frequent flyers who we see every 4 to 6 weeks. They never miss an appointment, but they also expect miracles every time they see us. Then you have the serious skincare clients who also visit every 4 to 6 weeks. But the one major difference between the two is the serious client knows and understands that what she or he does at home during the 4 to 6 week intervals is the most important element of their skincare regimen. Our skin doesn't take a vacation and go on hold or pause until we have a 1-hour appointment every 6 weeks. What we do on a daily basis affects how our skin looks and feels. These are the clients that when they come for treatment, get the best results because we're not spending time undoing the damage created since the last appointment. So true self-care is built through good habits and is a lifestyle choice. You don't have to think big. Making small changes in habits you already have can make a huge difference in your overall health and wellness. Take wine, for example. I don't know about you, but I really enjoy a good wine. Don't cut it out altogether if it's enjoyable to you, but explore clean wines and go for quality over quantity. Simple changes like eating organic food where possible, particularly avoiding the dirty dozen. We'll talk more about nutrition and meditation later on, But don't be overwhelmed with a mindfulness practice. It doesn't have to be a traditional meditation practice. It may be journaling, watching the sunrise with your favorite mug of tea, or simply eating breakfast in peace and quiet. The aim is to avoid all of the crazy distractions for a short period every single day. Let's talk habit building. Our days are filled with habits. Brushing your teeth, eating, walking, working are all habits. Some we do with little effort or thought. They all have one thing in common. They are all learned. Some habits are easier to adopt than others, but they all take repetition. As we learn a new habit, there's a conscious effort involved, and that effort is harder if we're not really feeling the habit in the first place. You know you need to swap soda drinking for water? You love soda, you know it's not good for you. However, you crave it and the alternative just isn't exciting. You rationalize your need for the swap and talk yourself into the benefits of water over soda. It's at this point that the desire to feel differently or improve your health is your driving factor. All the while, your body is craving the sugar from the soda. Be patient. Add flavor to your water. Start small. Cut back on your soda intake. Reframe the habit of drinking soda 2 hours before bed, for example, and work on just that for a few weeks. Replacing poor habits cold turkey often doesn't work, and it's far less likely to stick. Don't have the mentality that keeping one bad habit means you might as well give in and keep them all. Your body and mind will trick you. Knowing that habits are built over time with frequent repetition, what's actually happening in our brain? A cue is the original stimulus, the trigger if you like, that initiates the craving. For example, you see the Starbucks logo as you're driving. This initiates your craving, and cravings come from a desire to change things internally. You have a choice. Your body is telling you you're craving Starbucks. And for me, it's a chai tea latte. At this point, you'll respond. Your response will likely reinforce the behavior by getting that chai tea latte. The reward is you will enjoy the latte and satisfy the craving. So how do we reframe? When building habits, you often need to reframe an existing habit, so changing your response is key. It doesn't eliminate the craving, but here's the thing. Go to Starbucks, order something different, preferably a healthier choice, but the key here is something different. Congratulations, you've initiated the change. It's that simple in theory, but it takes a lot more effort in practice. If you're starting a new habit from scratch and there's no replacement, it's actually harder to achieve. The craving is the key. A new habit will be initiated because you desire to make that internal change, hopefully for the better. For example, if you desire to feel less stressed, how would your body and mind feel if you felt less stress or cope better with stressful situations? What habit would begin to relieve? What habit would begin to relieve the stress in my life? Let's take a look at the 5 lifestyle components that most of our habits are based around. Sleep, nutrition, hydration, mindfulness, exercise. But let's start with sleep. So why is sleep so important? The science of sleep is complex, but the bottom line is it's important to get the right amount of quality sleep on a consistent basis. Sleep disorders are commonplace, and a high percentage of the adult population will complain of sleep deprivation and/or sleep disorders. For the purpose of this presentation, I want to focus on the physiological effects on the body from lack of sleep. If we're getting quality sleep, our body has time to rest and repair. Our sympathetic nervous system gets to chill out. In turn, our cortisol levels lower. We'll talk a lot more about cortisol later. There are many things we can do to set ourselves up for a good night's sleep. For example, halting screen time 2 hours before bedtime and restful bedtime routines. I know you all know about that, but are you practicing it? We talked about the importance of sleep, but it's key to remember that our bodies run on a 24-hour cycle, also known as our circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythms are unique to us, but this is an example of some of the activities our bodies go through during a cycle. If our rhythm is interrupted by stress, it can affect not only our sleep cycle, but our hormonal output, our blood pressure, and many other physiological responses. The main offender being cortisol once again. Nutrition is a huge topic, and there's certainly an information overload when it comes to nutritional advice. But let's focus on the fact that healthy food choices, small portions, and food that's actually recognizable as food are your better choices. There are so many people with allergies to food, a ridiculous number of diet options that may have short-term benefits, but really are sustainable. It's important to know that weight issues may not all be food-related. Hormones play a major role in the way we gain and store fat and metabolize food. If you're completely honest with yourself and know that you have a balanced food intake, comprising of real, non-processed foods at least 80% of the time, chances are hormones may at least be partially to blame. Looking at weight from a stress and hormonal standpoint and striving for hormone balance and stress reduction may just help you lose those unwanted pounds. As you know, our bodies are created of a very high percentage of water, which is essential for maintaining homeostasis and good metabolic functioning of all of our organs. Our circulation and our lymphatic flow also rely heavily on adequate hydration. As a skin therapist, it would be wrong for me to mention hydration levels of the skin. Our skin depends on internal hydration levels to maintain effective barrier function and prevent bacteria and viruses from entering through the skin. Also think about where your water comes from. Many bottled waters still use BPA plastics, and where you live will determine the quality of tap water, how much fluoride and pesticides and other contaminants are often there. Don't forget that fresh fruit and veggies increase hydration levels in the body as well. Number 4 on the list of lifestyle factors is meditation and mindfulness. As I mentioned earlier, this can look very different based on your own preferences and level of commitment. Meditation increases productivity and improves focus. Meditation also interrupts the stress response and acts as a reset for the body and mind. Meditation reduces chronic stress levels and in turn reduces cortisol levels, which have so many negative effects on the body physiologically. Meditation also helps to calm the central nervous system. If you're under stress, you often experience gastric distress, which can occur due to hormonal imbalances, often leading to anxiety and depression. By taking a focused time out, it allows the body to reset and reduce cortisol levels. A consistent daily practice helps to keep cortisol levels low. Exercise boosts immune function and protects cognitive function. Exercise is one of the most effective uses of your time. According to a Stanford University study, it showed that one exercise session leads to a remarkable 9,000 molecular changes in your blood, including positive changes in tissue repair and reduction of inflammatory markers, an increase in metabolism, and basically a system-wide molecular response throughout the body. The really good news is it didn't take 2 hours of cardio to achieve these results. One exercise session lasting around 15 minutes leads to remarkable changes in the blood. For example, HIIT workouts rather than conventional cardio, based on exercising in short bursts with rest periods, burn the most fat. You may have heard the term fascia, but most people likely haven't paid much attention to it. So what is fascia? It's the thin casing or connective tissue that holds every muscle, tissue, bone, and nerve fiber in place. Fascia is responsible for getting nutrients for all body functions to where they're needed via the lymphatic and circulatory systems. It's like a nutrient-rich superhighway. There's specific exercise techniques and modalities for reducing stress in fascia. I wanted to mention the skin as it's an organ of detoxification and elimination. So what's going on in the body will be mirrored on the skin. So if you have skin conditions and disorders, it's a clue to what's happening internally on a physiological level. Our skin is one of the first indicators of how quickly we're aging. The average adult has about 22 square feet of skin and loses millions of skin cells every day. Those skin cells contribute to household dust. Ugh, yuck, what a thought. Healthy skin is achieved as much internally as it is topically. A regular daily topical home care regimen is really key. What you put on your skin is as important as what you put in your body. Think clean beauty products. However, a word of warning, homemade preparations are not what I'm talking about. The skin is complex and requires certain technology and targeted treatments to perform specific functions. Prepping your own avocado mask will not give you your desired results. It's a question of delivery. Think molecular sizes and deliverability. Perhaps all of this is new to you, or you already live a healthy lifestyle, but you know you could improve. But one thing is a given. If you don't make time for wellness, you'll be forced to make time for illness. Remember, true self-care is a conscious choice built from daily habits. Your self-care plan should be unique to you and is becoming an even more important during a pandemic and a failing health system. The reality is we're all aging from the day we are born, but some age prematurely based on lifestyle and bad habits. Inflammation is the body's way of protecting itself from harm. Acute inflammation can be helpful and protect the body. A body under constant attack through bad habits and poor lifestyle choices creates chronic inflammation, which can cause many negative reactions within the body, including premature aging. Chronic conditions often develop over time, often due to poor lifestyle choices or continuation of poor habits. Chronic conditions are becoming increasingly prevalent and may be linked to the presence of chronic stress, the hormones and inflammatory responses connected with chronic stress. A person may have a reasonable lifestyle and habits and still suffer from chronic conditions, either related to past lifestyle conditions or simply uncontrolled environmental factors. Now more than ever, it's important to be your own healthcare advocate. There's a shift in the way people are beginning to view healthcare. Science and modern medicine are amazing and can do some incredible things. However, you don't need to look far to find someone, perhaps you or someone in your family, who suffers from a chronic physical or mental health condition. They're likely frustrated from the lack of answers they're getting from their medical community, and even worse, in some cases, they're told it's not real or all in their head. Their list of chronic healthcare conditions is growing, and many of these chronic conditions are being misdiagnosed or miscategorized based on the lack of available answers for symptoms they may be experiencing. Taking control of your self-care routine and creating healthy habits and living a healthy lifestyle will go a long way to preventing chronic conditions. Let's talk about chronic stress. As cortisol and other stress hormones accumulate, there's an increased production of inflammatory cytokines that further compromise the immune response. So what does that actually mean? You're very likely familiar with the fight and flight response and its critical function for survival. The problem is the same hormone involved in the fight and flight response can also become enemy number one when it comes to chronic stress. Cortisol levels can build up in the body to problematic levels and fluctuate throughout the day. So even if you have your cortisol levels tested, it'll not provide an accurate picture. An increased cortisol level will increase the inflammatory response and compromising the immune function more and more over time. High cortisol levels trigger female testosterone suppression. Healthy, vibrant women need testosterone. But wait, isn't testosterone a male hormone? Testosterone is actually produced by both men and women. A lack of testosterone leads to fatigue and accelerated aging. Testosterone in women regulates libido, fat burning, and strengthens bones and boosts mood. As we age, testosterone levels reduce. Testosterone turns up our fat-burning ability. However, an increase in competing hormones such as cortisol destroys healthy testosterone and as a result packs on the belly fat. We have to get those cortisol levels in check. Bottom line, high blood cortisol levels destroy testosterone levels. As we know, more cortisol is created during mental and physical stress. So cortisol increases blood sugar when we need it as part of the flight and fight response. It provides energy. Even if you're producing enough testosterone, an increase in cortisol will suppress it. A Harvard University study found that if cortisol levels are too high, testosterone will become ineffective. Too much cortisol in the blood slows metabolism, causes fatigue, and causes those cortisol receptors to pack on the weight. Let's talk a little bit more about the stress-cortisol weight gain connection, also referred to as the stress-cortisol trap. Adipose tissue, which is fat tissue in our bellies, have many cortisol receptors. So there's far more opportunity for cortisol to act on our fat cells. So I'm sure by now you're getting that cortisol is frenemy number one. During the stress response, the HPA axis is activated. This is our central stress response, incorporating the nervous system and endocrine systems. Cortisol is released by the adrenal glands in response to the HPA axis. There are many hormones released, but we're focusing on cortisol. Cortisol is released for several hours after initial exposure to the stressor. So when blood levels of cortisol reach a certain concentration, via negative feedback, the blood vessels of cortisol should return to normal. As exposure to stressors, real or perceived, increase, the body takes longer to return to normal. Age, adrenal fatigue, constant activation of the HPA axis means the body takes longer and longer to respond. So how does this actually affect our weight gain? In response to stress, perceived or real, cortisol levels build up. We get a spike in blood sugar, although temporarily, it's followed quickly by a blood sugar drop, which leaves us deflated and guess what? Craving more sugar. When your blood sugar is low, your body craves donuts, cakes, and sweets. We eat, and our bellies expand. There's a reason why that fat accumulates on your belly, and it's in part due to the fat receptors in our abdominal tissue. It's like an open invitation for cortisol to act on our fat cells. Bottom line, find better habits, make lifestyle changes to reduce the occurrence of chronic stress, and make smarter food choices so when our blood sugar levels fluctuate, we can deal with it. A good quality plant or animal-based protein will break down into amino acids, which in turn will produce more of our feel-good neurotransmitters, like serotonin and dopamine. I don't know about you, but I've had enough of cortisol for today. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about self-care and productivity. A true self-care routine and focus increases productivity. One of the causes of stress, and there are so many, is trying to get it all done and done at once. So let's talk a little bit for a moment about multitasking. I know you can all relate. So how does multitasking really work? Scientifically speaking, we can't multitask, but we think we can. We have limited cognitive bandwidth, so multitasking isn't a reality. Monotasking is far more productive. At least that's what the science says. When you think you're multitasking, you're actually just swapping between tasks. You may think you just picked up where you left off, but in reality, your brain has to backtrack when you return to a task. Your ability to get things done depends on how well you can focus on one task at a time. Focusing one task at a time exercises the frontal cortex of the brain, making it much easier to focus. Taking breaks between tasks to get up and move improves focus and productivity. So take movement breaks. See what I did there? Yes, get some exercise or some stretching in. A huge component of true self-care is incorporating touch. Touch is essential to our well-being. Touch relaxes the central nervous system and elicits a response opposite of the fight or flight response. The vagus nerve responds to human connectivity and touch, and in turn reduces cortisol levels within the blood and increases oxytocin levels. Oxytocin is often referred to as the cuddle hormone. Makes you feel warm and fuzzy. We could all do with a little more of warm and fuzzy right now. Cascades of physical and biochemical changes in the body and brain that counteract the fight and flight response. There are pressure receptors below the skin that are stimulated through touch that send electrical signals to the vagus nerve, the superhighway of the nervous system. This leads to almost every organ in the body. The brainstem regulates breathing, blood pressure, and heart rate. When the vagus nerve receives touch signals and directs them to the brainstem, it in turn sends another set of signals to slow the heart and nervous system. The body then turns down the amount of stress hormones, including cortisol. Studies show that regular touch can reduce cortisol levels by up to 30%. As cortisol eases up, heart rate slows, nerve cells release serotonin, which of course is a natural antidepressant and anti-pain chemical. I wanted to share some of my self-care practices with you. I have habits too, and one of my favorite is drinking 16 ounces of celery juice daily. Yes, and I did say celery juice. I do this for several months at a time, and then I take a break when I feel like I want to. Taking a break makes me realize how effective the celery juice is when I'm taking it, and by the way it makes me feel. Celery juice is detoxifying, it cleanses the liver, and has so many other health benefits. Another favorite habit of mine, or lifestyle choice, is aromatherapy. It's an integral part of my health and wellness plan, and pretty much has been for the last 30 years. I've used essential oils for myself and my family, and also on clients as an aromatherapist. I highly encourage you to explore the many benefits of pure essential oils, but please remember less is more, and also do your research. A couple of my other favorite self-care treatments are dry body brushing and handheld massage tools. Body brushing has a profound effect on the lymphatic system, and it's a frequently forgotten superhighway of essential fluid filtration. Not to mention it feels great. Remember to always brush towards the heart. Handheld massage devices are a great tool to have in your toolkit. There's nothing like a hands-on massage treatment, and as a massage therapist, I highly encourage you to have regular hands-on massages. But supplementing with a handheld tool between regularly scheduled massages keeps muscles pliable, improves circulation and lymphatic flow, and reduces all that stuck stress in muscles and fascia. So the one thing I hope you take away from this today is no one is responsible for you except you. So I hope you've enjoyed this webinar and taken a close look at your own self-care regimen and how important it is. We truly only get one body and one life to live on this earth. I've put together a mini course incorporating basic reflexology techniques that you can use with yourself or a partner. Please join me in this easy to follow video series that will leave you with a treatment that is both fun and guaranteed to leave you feeling relaxed. I hope you will continue on your self-care journey. And as Lucille Ball said, love yourself first and everything else falls in line. You really have to love yourself to get anything done in this world. If you're interested in learning more about self-care and its many components, please visit www.kirstensheridan.com. I really look forward to welcoming you.